was struck with an idea. What would an annual report look like for one person? Not the summary of the global economy in 2010, but the story of one person's life for 1 year on one page. And it's not that crazy of an idea. My grandfather collected 3 things: shells, coins, and scrapbooks. Scrapbooks were the most time-intensive and the most rewarding of his pursuits. He'd sit in the living room come the end of the year and surround himself with postcards, newspaper clippings, family photographs, class portraits, stamps, foreign currencies, basically anything that could be adhered to a page. Then he would arrange them one page after the other in chronological order, with the little yellow captions, the month and the year that each thing happened, the impossible-to-use plastic cellophane for sealing it all in to make it timeless. And what would he do when he was done? Put it on a bookshelf to collect dust, until some unsuspecting visitor came along to ask if he'd ever been to London, and down the rabbit hole they went. So what do you get when you combine the nostalgic exercise of my grandfather with the discipline and beauty of information design? Well, it might look something like this. The 2005 Feltron Annual Report, 14 pages, one person, 1 year, one book. Nicholas began by collecting the mundane details of his life, like which days he'd played and which days he'd worked. Then he arranged each section of the book to reflect an aspect of his life, the way he would relay it to a friend over dinner. Where did you go? What did you listen to? What did you see? What did you read? Anything good? What did you eat? And what other random stuff happened that year? And collected together, the result was amazing. It was received incredibly well by the design community, not just because it was beautiful, but because it dealt with the problem of the information age. What are we going to do with all this data? So Nicholas was urged to continue creating these reports. So each year, he collected details from his life in more granular detail, each year presenting them in a more compelling and more beautiful narrative. So that by 2009, it was hard to call it anything other than what it was: art. It was at the point where he was tracking each taxi ride, each subway journey, each walk through Central Park, so that at the end of the year, he could have a bird's-eye view of his pattern of movement through Manhattan. It was then turned into something of such incredibly high production value that as soon as we got wind of this at Facebook, we had one reaction. We have to try and hire this guy. We have to try and get him from Brooklyn, New York to Palo Alto, California to help us on this problem. And after several conversations, Nicholas Felton and his partner in crime, Ryan Case, moved out to Palo Alto to help out on what you've seen today. Just before, it's pretty cool. Just before, we'd hired another New Yorker named Sam Lesson. Sam Lesson had arrived at Facebook, and his job was to help us reimagine the profile. And on his first day, he exclaimed, rather unceremoniously, that the Facebook profile, in its current incarnation, was the single biggest lost opportunity in the history of human storytelling. And for effect, he printed out his profile from now all the way back to 2004 when he joined, and taped the whole thing together, stretching halfway across the office to remind us how much of the past had fallen off. Back at headquarters, teams of designers and engineers were working hard on this problem of giving people tools for remembering. And in the spirit of accidents at Facebook that sometimes yield amazing results, for one day in June, we accidentally launched this prototype to our entire user base for 1 hour. It was called Memories, and it was just an easy way of looking through your old stuff on Facebook. And though it wasn't ready for the prime time, in its moment in the sun, we got incredibly positive feedback. So we tucked that away and kept working. And it made sense. In the 6 years that I've been on Facebook, a lot has happened to me. I've dropped out of college, I've started a new job, I've moved like 7 times, we've launched a bunch of new products, I've had all these anniversaries and weddings and family reunions, I've gotten engaged and then married. We've even gotten a new dog. And to go look at my profile today, it's all behind this gray link. And that's the problem we've set out to solve with all that we're talking about today. What is the modern vehicle for the timeless process of scrapbooking? And it starts with a box with all your stuff in it. Except that this one is comprehensive, it's better organized, it's easy to use, and you don't have to spread it out on your living room floor. From there, you get a giant canvas on which to present the different aspects of your life as you might explain them to a friend in a long conversation. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? What do you do? Who are your best friends? Do we know anyone in common? And then maybe you pull out some photos to show me your family, your dog, your best friends, where you work. What's the most amazing place you've ever been? Where do you spend your time? Tell me about what inspires you. Authors, thinkers, journalists, musicians. And then from there, what is your favorite film? What are your favorite albums of all time? What games do you play, and wherever the conversation leads us? From there, tell me about last summer. What were you doing in the 90s? What was your childhood like? And then on top of that, a magnificent giant photo, an easy way of browsing it. And you have a container big enough for anyone's story. We've had the chance in the past few months to play around with this. And the amazing thing when you switch from the current profile to the new timeline is just how much you've forgotten was there. On July 31st of this year, I got married. And on one of the, thank you. And on one of the most amazing days of my life, there's so much going on, it's kind of a blur. Thankfully, my friends and family were there to capture the whole thing in beautiful photographs. And now, I get to keep those. I met all of this extended family and relatives for the first time, and now I get to keep that too. We hired a bunch of local businesses, a florist, a winery, a band, a produce company. Those are a part of how I remember it. Leading up to the event, we had these 5 reggae albums on repeat in the house for about 4 weeks, trying to figure out what was going to be our first dance. And that, to me, is the sound of the ceremony. And then one of the more painful parts of the memory is traveling all around the Bay Area before, trying to pick people up and drop them off and go to the tailor and go to the jeweler and make sure everything's ready. But that's a part of what happened. Then afterwards, inundated with congratulations and support, my wall became a social memory of what had happened. And now I get to keep that too. So when you turn this thing on, what is incredible is that not only are your memories there, but they're organized and arranged in one place. And there's a lot of stuff there that you didn't even realize or remember actually was there. And when you want to get back to reality, all you need to do is scroll up to the top of the page. Timeline really is a blank canvas.